Afternoon guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to have a discussion about We Buy Any Car. Now I don't want to talk about the legitimacy of the business because it is a legitimate business. I had a quick look online before I started this video, and it was started in 2006 by a couple of blokes, and in 2013 they sold it to the British Car Auction Association, whatever you call them, and then they floated the business a few years ago, and it's got an annual revenue of over £500 million. So it's a legitimate business, but that's not what I want to talk about. I have recently just sold my Renault Clio 200 through We Buy Any Car, and what I want to do is talk about how you go about doing it, some of the good things and some of the bad things, and maybe some of the pitfalls if you use We Buy Any Car for selling your next car. Is it a rip-off, or is it a reasonable alternative for selling your car? So if you're not familiar with the format, basically you get online, you put in your registration number, and it comes back straight away with a valuation. Now I'll come back to the valuation in a minute, because the valuation you get online isn't necessarily going to be the valuation you get when you go to the shop. So if you're happy with your valuation, it then asks you if you want to make an appointment at the nearest branch. You choose your time, and then you turn up there in your car that you're going to sell. And what they did with me as well, which I'm sure they do with all customers, is literally within 5 minutes of me making an appointment, the local branch rang me and told me that I had to bring in my V5 and any documentation and all that sort of thing. So you turn up at the branch. The guy was very helpful, and he took my keys off me and he went for a walk around the car. Now he looked around the outside quite well, looking at the alloys, the paintwork, that sort of thing. Then he went into the car and then looked at the interior. A couple of strange things. One, he didn't start the car at any time. Now I've heard in the past at maybe different branches of We Buy Any Car that they get in, they start the car, and they move the car forward and backwards a couple of feet, I guess mainly just to show that it does actually it runs and it moves. However, I'm guessing he didn't do that because I've just driven the car there. That's the only thing I can put it down to. So it does his evaluation of your car, which takes about 5 minutes, if that. Then he comes back in and he's got a pad with all the faults, or whatever you want to call it, on his little pad, and he puts them into the computer. So he'll put down X amount of stone chips, one alloy needs a refurb, the interior's a bit shabby, whatever it happens to be. Now take into account that they've already given you a valuation online. All these things that he puts down on the computer detracts from that valuation. Also as well, what he wants to know is, do you have both sets of keys? Do you have the owner's manual? Do you have full service history? Etc, etc. And for every time you say no, again it detracts from the value. So obviously he did that with my Renault Clio. Now I only had one key for the Clio. It's never bothered me for the whole time I've owned it, but I only had one key. I also didn't have an owner's manual. Now one thing that did bother me a little bit about it was I was taking a 10-year-old car there. Now when I put in the valuation, you would have thought they would already take into account it's a 10-year-old car. It's not going to be in pristine condition. There's obviously going to be stone chips on it at 10 years old. There's obviously going to be a couple of marks on the alloys. The interior isn't going to be as fresh as what it was when it came out of the factory 10 years ago. However, they still put that in the computer, and that still comes away with a lower valuation. Now, when he did that with me, the valuation came back about £450 less than the value that I'd got online. Now, what I did do is I'd already set my stall out before I went. The value they offered me online, I was reasonably happy with. So when he came back and offered me £400 less, I said, no, the amount you offered me is the bottom line I'm going to take. It's already less than I can get from a dealer, should I go to a dealer, because I'd already asked. So then, and I'm sure they do it with everyone, he then says, right, let me ring my manager, see if I can bump it up for you. So he rings his manager, probably a generic phone call, and sure enough, they offered me what I got on the original valuation online. Now, I was reasonably happy with that. I went there knowing I could potentially get that. I wasn't going to get any more, I knew that, but I was reasonably happy with that. And one thing I will say about it is, from start to finish, I must have been in there 10 minutes, and that was it. And I walked out selling my car. 10 minutes start to finish. Now, is it a good alternative for selling your car? I would say, as long as the initial valuation you get online you're happy with, then absolutely. Because you've got no hassle of putting your car on eBay, tyre kickers coming around looking at your car saying, oh, I'll give you £1,000 less, mate, or part exchanges, the hassle with all that. Yes, I could have got a few more £100 through part exchange. I know I could. The particular problem I had with the Clio 200 is because it had so many owners, one of the garages that I went to wasn't even interested in taking the car in for any amount of money. They just didn't want it, full stop. So in circumstances like mine, the We Buy Any Car route was actually quite good. Yes, I lost a few £100 compared to what I could have done if I'd have traded it in. I probably lost £1,000 if I could have been bothered going through the rigmarole of selling it privately. But to me, it was worth it. However, be aware that when you get there, they are going to knock you down on price. If you go and set your stall out right from the off like I did, and you're happy with the online valuation, and you're not going to walk away with any less than that, so long as your car isn't a complete dog, I think you'll be quite happy. Obviously, another good part of sort of We Buy Any Car or places like that as well is, like me now, I'm currently in the market now for another car, and it frees up that cash. Part exchanging it obviously limits you to what car you can actually get, which is another reason why I didn't go for the part exchange, simply because I couldn't find the car that I wanted locally to part exchange it for. So, you know, it certainly does have its good points. Just remember to set your stall out before you go. Well, that's pretty much it. Hope it helped if you're considering the We Buy Any Car option. And as always, if you've got any comments, leave them below, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks a lot.